President-elect Donald Trump confirmed on Monday he plans to mobilize the U.S. military to carry out mass deportations. He announced it in a Truth Social post, writing simply, quote, "It's true." Trump was responding to a Truth Social post the president of the conservative group Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton, made earlier this month that said, quote, "Good news. Reports are the incoming Donald Trump administration prepared to declare a national emergency and will use military assets to reverse the Biden invasion through a mass deportation program." Now, his newly appointed border czar, Tom Homan, doubled down on the use of military. Here he is on Fox News Business Monday night. Let's watch.
Well, first of all, DOD's helped several administrations to secure the border, Republican and Democrat. DOD will be used, if we have an agreement from DOD, the president has to make that decision. But if we use DOD, then they'll be used to do non-enforcement duties, such as transportation, whether it's on ground or air, infrastructure building, intelligence. Things that would take a badge and gun and ICE officer that are doing these type of duties, takes them away from those duties, put them on the street, and let the military do those duties, because it doesn't require immigration authorities.
Approximately 11 million undocumented immigrants are currently living in the United States. A deportation of this scale stands to impact roughly 20 million families. According to reports, Trump's team is looking to craft executive orders that could withstand legal challenges similar to those that delayed his 2017 Muslim ban. The ACLU, for its part, is preemptively suing the agency in charge of immigration. According to Axios, the ACLU is seeking records on how ICE air operations could be expanded to carry out a deportation and detention program that could ensnare millions of undocumented, or illegal if you prefer, immigrants.
Reactions from all sides of the immigration issue have been circulating on social media. Democratic Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar posted, quote, "Donald Trump plans to declare a national emergency and utilize the Alien Enemies Act to conduct mass deportations. This xenophobia and cruelty shouldn't be allowed in America. We are going to fight it every step of the way." Chair of the Ron Paul Liberty Report, Chris Rossini, is not a fan of using the military because he says, quote, "The issue is the precedent that it sets. We don't want the military on our streets. I particularly don't want a future leftist president declaring a national emergency and sending in the troops. Such a president may not be so concerned with legality and justice." Conservative social media personality Tim Young, on the other side, posted, quote, "If your abuelita is here illegally, it's time to go back home." Right-wing account Wall Street Maverick posted, quote, "We want so many deportations that we never have to press #1 for English again."
In other immigration news, according to reports, Haitian families are fleeing Springfield, Ohio. The town was put on the map following false claims of pet-eating Haitians perpetuated by Trump and others on the right. According to NBC News, residents there fear that they could be targeted in Trump's mass deportation plan.
So let's get into it. This is something that Trump made no secrets that he wanted to do. I would say that he ran explicitly on a platform of dealing with massive illegal immigration on a massive scale. No one who voted for Trump should be surprised that he wants to carry this out to deport illegal immigrants. I would say that there is a certain amount of tension between wanting to downsize the federal government, which I think is a good thing, and using the military to surveil Americans on such a level that we would root out the 12 million or more people who are here illegally. My compromise position, if the White House is listening to me, would be because the aspects of illegal immigration that have so frustrated Americans are the crime problem. So yes, we should absolutely dedicate more resources toward, work harder to keep American streets safe and get rid of illegal immigrants who have committed other crimes, robbery, violence for certain. We should deal with them, get them off our streets, get them out of here. We should also work toward a model where the immigrants coming into America are not mobbing the social services system. Again, this was a criticism even in Springfield, where those are not illegal immigrants and they were welcomed into Springfield and they helped stimulate the economy, but there was some swamping of the local social services. Were not prepared to deal with this influx. That has annoyed Americans, and so that must be addressed. That could be best addressed through creating, making it easier for people to come here legally and be vetted and work. And that would, I think, cause Americans not to be so irritated by illegal immigration. I don't think deporting abuelita I don't think Americans at the end of the day will want to see it. And if you are in favor of that, you have to think, okay, do you want to show your papers to prove you're not an Abuelita? Do you want to go through airport-style security? Do you get pulled over by the police? You want to show your immigration documents to prove you're not here illegally? I don't think so.
Right.
Americans, rightly, correctly, we rebelled from you Brits. I know you're from. I know you're Irish, but
so don't worry about it.
you know what I mean. We
Yeah.
rejected this level of
Yeah.
tyranny 200 plus years ago, and I don't think we want to see it again. I think when push comes to shove, people would be quite annoyed about a mass military surveillance plot to root out illegal immigrants. But there is a problem, and it should be dealt with seriously in terms of lawbreakers and social services being depleted. That would be my stance.
There is no doubt that Trump ran on immigration in a big way, and it was one of his major issues, and it was one of his major electoral advantages. Every single poll showed he was favored by a big margin over Kamala Harris in that respect. The difficulty, I think, is the rubber is now about to meet the road, because your compromise that you articulated there isn't one that Trump agrees with. He contends that he is going to try to deport everybody and carry out the largest mass deportation in American history. And what you get, as you so often get with Trump, is now a situation where the slogan or the grand sort of war cry has been repeated lots of times, and people are about to find out what it in fact means. Now, for example, there are, according to the American Immigration Council, more than 6 million US citizen children who have a family member who is an undocumented or illegal immigrant. Are people ready for that level of disruption? Apparently, one American family in 25 has an undocumented or illegal immigrant member. That level of disruption, and to your point, then you have the additional issue of using the military in a way that would be, I think, oppressive in many people's eyes. Certainly if it is not focused on people guilty and provably guilty of the absolute worst crimes. That doesn't mean that I'm an open borders guy or that people who raised reservations to this are open borders people. It's that this is a massive operation that they're talking about that I think is likely to have many, many unintended consequences.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know what Trump, well, I know what Trump thinks about it. However, Shadow President Elon Musk has said repeatedly that he's for legal immigration. He's a legal immigrant himself.
Yep.
And legal immigration is fine because we need people to come here and work and build things, and labor is a resource just like any other. And if you arbitrarily cut off or ban or put tariffs on or make more difficult to get an important and vital resource, what happens? The price of things goes up. The number one concern, in addition to immigration, of American voters in this election cycle was the high price of everything. And look, I would say to those people, again, I understand your concerns about illegal immigration. I share them. We need to take care of that. We need to fix the crime problem. We need to make sure the school system and the medical system is not overrun by people we had no way to facilitate or know how many we're getting. The people in New York are so fed up with, I've come to understand, hotels just being occupied by illegal immigrants this is being provided to them at taxpayer expense. That is all. I understand the frustration, but we want to make it so they can come here and work, so we don't have the price of everything get so out of whack, which it will be impacted by if you've snapped your fingers and made disappear all immigrant labor, you would get more expensive things, and people don't want that. It's just true. Like if you snapped your finger and got rid of all the lumber or all the steel or all the corn or all the bricks or whatever resources we're trading in Settlers of Catan, like it would not be good for the U.S. economy.
Right, but I mean, I think that goes to the point that I frequently come back to on Trump, which is his tendency to advance these pithy, politically popular slogans that actually don't make a lot of sense or are difficult to implement or would have all sorts of counterproductive effects. And when it comes to immigration, look, it is obviously a problem if you have 11 to 12 million people in the country who are not authorized to be there. I have never been among those on the more liberal side who've argued that that isn't an issue. But I also think that Trump scapegoats those people for all sorts of problems that isn't really anything to do with them, and exaggerates the level of crime. Not that any level of crime is good for someone who shouldn't be in the country in the first place, but seeks to demagogue the issue in a way that isn't really grappling with the needs of the immigration.
And I would also say on crime, look, I have become, having lived in D.C. now for 10 plus years, continuously, and I lived here on and off before that, I have certainly become more cognizant of the crime problem in major American cities, and more willing, even as a libertarian who wants to like defund every agency there is, I've certainly become more willing to put money and muscle behind police power to correct crime problems in cities or wherever they occur in America. So I am clear-eyed about that. It is not the case that immigrants or illegal immigrants even, are disproportionately the cause of our crime problem. I mean, you can look at the 100+ murders that occurred in D.C. last year, the year before. It was a giant spike in violent crime, in homicide in the nation's capital. It's not immigrants. It's not illegal immigrants. It's people who are born here. It's poor, disproportionately black people from underprivileged areas of the city. Many of them young, who impacted negatively by COVID, or also just mentally ill people who are released and out on the streets when they need to be in asylums or something. That's the problem. Quasi-vagrant acting out teenagers of any ethnicity, but from disproportionately bad or underprivileged backgrounds, which tend to be black, or insane people who are drug addicted and need to be on medicine and those kinds of things. It's not disproportionately an illegal immigrant problem, and I want it dealt with. But the illegal immigrants, there are illegal immigrants committing crimes. Don't get mistaken. And every time it happens, they end up headlining every conservative news site there is. But that's not the entire problem.
I think what I have to do here, Robby, in my important role, is to move you from. You've started to move from your libertarian position to wanting more funding of police. Mm-hmm. And I think what I have to do is move you further down that line to suggest that actually the difficulty in many of those communities and geographical areas, particularly in the District of Columbia, is marginalization, poverty, dysfunction, the legacy of racism, and all of those things. And that's where we should be applying our muscle to deal with the causes rather than the symptoms of these problems.
I mean, I want to deal with the causes, not against dealing with the causes, but it's a broken windows problem. The broken windows, as you say, it's a fallacy, but it has, as far as I can tell, a certain amount of underlying truth to it. That if you neglect the proper policing of underprivileged neighborhoods, you make the problem worse. And the people who live there want good police. They don't want over policing. They don't want stop and frisk where everyone who looks a certain way just gets automatically suspected and searched. I don't favor that at all. But it was very telling to me. I mean, I discovered this for the first time when there's a riot or so over some police brutality episode with George Floyd, or before that with all the various other ones that occurred, and then there's some riot and something burns down, and then journalists, when they interview the people who live in that area, they say, well, no, we don't want rioting. We want good, sane policing. People are entitled to good, sane police services, and they're entitled to have their neighborhoods free of mentally ill and drug addicted people on the street. You don't have society at all on some level if you just let. It's not healthy for those people either.
Right.
I'm not saying they need to all be in prison, but they need medical.
I'm proposing mass incarceration.
No, but people who are mentally ill and drug addicted and in the streets and danger to themselves and to others need to be in mental health rehabilitation.
No, they don't.
They can't just come and go as they please. They need to have to take their medicine.
No, I know, but the problem, and I'm not saying you're making this argument, but the problem I have a lot of times when crime is discussed is that it can be defined as a pathology of individual or groups of people, whereas I think it is the consequence of social causes, be that impoverishment, be that dysfunction, be that lack of opportunity. Those are the things that create the soil from which crime and other problems spring.
I think I agree with that. More to come on Rising Today. Please stay tuned. We'll discuss it right after this.